internet. See, some Twitch streamers will actively show a banner that says I will be right there, and that way they can get ready while still actively streaming. I say no, we're doing this live.
Bill O'Reilly stuff. Fuck it, I'll do it live. Fuck it.
Should start doing the if you watch this, I'll give you goodies to whatever game you're playing.
I don't have access to goodies. I did get a follower from being on Arcade Pit though. They liked the concept of the show as I explained it, so there was that. Hooray!
Are they tuned in now? Did they really tune out?
They're not tuned in now. We have 0 viewers, but we also just started streaming, and I don't post a stream schedule. That's right, Marlon. Show feed on live. That's how we get them in.
That's how we do it. What the hell? You got a new viewer. Check that out.
That'll put butts in seats. The problem is neither of the three of us are as shameless as a Vince McMahon type. So this exists completely for us. just screaming to the void.
We were Carney. Let's just smoke all the meth while we're streaming. Just do it live.
Just like a crack rock while we're on stream. Synchronized. It's not illegal to do crack online, is it? I don't think they could arrest us for that.
I think it may be. I'm no legal scholar, but I think doing something illegal and filming you doing the illegal thing is illegal.
Well, you do Drugs Incorporated. You just put on the ski mask.
This big pink ski mask against you.
It's just the Elder Scrolls Oblivion Gray Fox mask. Just put it on, you become a different person.
Yeah. Oh man, we get so many hits though. We do it just as furries, and I know I just whip out the crack rocks. And just watch the numbers fly.
We are already off the rails. Welcome everyone to Animesplaining. Get the cyber cops. We're doing crimes over here. You need
hack into all our brains.
Hack into all of our brains. Scare us straight by firing tank shells at us. That is episode 8 has a very expensive scared straight episode. Just using public funds. Just on a whim.
Yeah, what did you learn?
Did we learn to not steal organs? This has nothing to do with the main plot. This is just a side episode. So what?
Realistically, because this is a 26 episode season. Really, what episodes are really the important ones?
Anytime they talk about the Laughing Man, it's the main plot line.
1, 2, 5. Is that 5 where he does the press conference where the Laughing Man comes out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and
then I think 6 and 9.
Because which one does he contact Togusa? Then that's 6.
No, Interceptors is 4. So that's when the Laughing Man saga truly starts.
Yeah.
Okay.
The hacking. But at the same time, something I appreciate about the show now that I did not appreciate back then, this came out during the big police procedural boom. So there's a lot of filler episodes that are actually just really good. Like episode 8 that you just brought up. I didn't even notice that had nothing to do with anything. I was just enthralled by the story. I just wanted to see what happened. And the show is full of episodes like that, unlike our last bit, My Hero Academia, where it kind of is one long episode. While this, you can kind of just jump in and enjoy anything. Like it's like potato chips. I really, really enjoyed this time period for anime. It was so good.
I agree with you, Marwin. I think the side episodes do very well because basically we're just watching people at their jobs this entire
Yeah.
anime. So by having your main plot line but having it occasionally go into a side episode where it's just like, "Oh, we're doing this case." It seems like they're just waiting for more stuff to happen in the main plot line, but it's like we still clock in. We still do our jobs. So it
Yeah.
I think it gives you a very good framing device to do that. But Joey, what do you think of the Cyber Cops overall? Or
I
as a first impression, I guess.
I mean, it's it does feel very cop show. I mean, the problem with like the Laughing Man is when it gets the most interesting, and it feels like kind of a really long, drawn out V for Vendetta, where I don't know who
Yeah.
like the person I'm supposed to be following is. So, as far as the cyber cops go, it's interesting because it's obviously it adds a whole new layer to this crime series. So, the only like I don't know, the main police chief guy annoys me. The whatever the old dude.
The poofy hair.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
I don't know,
fortunate.
for some reason
Yeah, our audience
Wait,
can
Nick, not
see
me.
the cast in the center here, and you have the real boss, who the original boss lady, who's Makoto Kusanagi. You have Bato, who's kind of the heavy. Aramaki is the true head guy, their old man that speaks old man, and that's how
Charlie.
he gets them past the political stuff. Then you have Togasa, who is like detective character,
the
and
everyman. I would
and
say the everyman.
and then you have
Yeah.
Pazu, Boma, and two others who I forget their names because there is hardly ever an episode that centers on them. They just kind of show up.
Right. It's kind of I equate it to James Bond team. You have James Bond and yeah, you have recurring characters, but I don't know who these guys are. I don't give a shit who Moneypenny is. I know she's in every movie, but I don't care. It's kind of the same situation here. You have the Major and these guys hang out the Major sometimes.
Yeah, the show cares about three characters. It cares about Kusanagi, Bato, and Togasa. And that's just because Bato and Togasa, they really like putting them in buddy cop plots.
Yeah.
Because are they
They are fun.
Are they what?
So they're not partners. They're just there together all the time.
They just get teamed up together. The male members of Section 9 tend to be paired up. So, like, Pazu and Boma are always put together. Sniper Dude and other guy get put together because he's like his spotter. But yet the main ones that actually do things in the plot are going to be Bato and Togasa, just because I think their personalities do very well. They're a standard, like, cop show, like, type.
Right.
And then the major's there to clean everything up and make things either move plot wise or she's like you say the Bato's the heavy because he is the big physical dude, but realistically she is the one that goes up and kicks ass and cleans everything up.
It's the same three pairs. It's a three again. It's Demon Slayer. It's My Hero Academia. You have your middleman. You have the Major, and then you have your extremes on the side. Extreme happy and joyful, and you have your extreme downer, and then you have the middleman who's just kind of the jack of all trades but perfect in everything. Yeah, that's the Major again. It's all anime on the same template.
So I guess, Joey, this is going to kind of turn into a quiz because this is a show that you kind of need to pay attention to. So, what was the Laughing Man incident?
Was the like the press conference one?
The
Actually
original Laughing Man incident that like brought everything on and what's important about it. This is going to be the only time because I doubt that you like can give us a full synopsis.
There's the Interceptors where because the other section was investigating the Laughing Man for years, they said. And so he's like, hey, I need to pass this information off. But then he dies in a car accident. Otherwise, there's the press conference where you kind of like, that's what I equated to V for Vendetta, where basically it's broadcast on TV where you see the Laughing Man symbol
Yeah.
on the dude's face.
That's a good comparison.
If there's an inciting incident before that, I'm drawing a blank.
They do give you this answer in the show. How many people in that press conference when the guy is going to be assassinated is the Laughing Man actually hacking into?
Probably, I'd say 2.
0.
I'd say, obviously.
Or I think it's either 0 or 1. It's either the bodyguard guy only, or it's no one. Because the show is called Standalone Complex, and what they explain that is when individual parties work towards a common goal without having any sort of connection to each other. Like, they do not communicate. They just naturally go towards a common goal. So the idea of the Laughing Man incident is it's this former incident that happened way back when, where a CEO of some health company was taken hostage, and this dude tried to make him confess on live television while hiding his face behind this symbol thing, the smiling guy with the hat, and was ultimately unsuccessful. And what it turned into was this big pop culture thing of rebellion that the corporations basically took advantage of and manipulated their stock price, is kind of what they explain in episode 9. So
Right.
but it goes further into the plot. So that is effectively like the overall synopsis of that main canon storyline that exists, that through line with the Laughing Man so far, is that there are people who are investigating the Laughing Man incident, and they may or may not get too close to the corporations. Then they kind of start either killing them off or mass surveil them. And how deep does it go in the Japanese government?
When you say killing them off, the corporation's killing off the police because they can see their investigation, or the police like
No,
killing off whoever the corporation want them
the corporations and corrupt people within the government killing off anyone who's like potentially going to blow a whistle on them.
Yeah. Which is the impression I got of episode 9 when that guy got too close and there's like, just shut the fuck up. And he's like, I gotta go. Sorry, somebody came up.
Right. Where all of a sudden just completely froze up like mid sentence. Everyone's like,
Yep.
I have to go now.
Nobody help him. Like, he's having a seizure right in front of you, but don't get up from your seats, please.
What are they going to do? They're online avatars.
Yeah, that's what I figured anyway. And now that you brought that up, I knew there was some parallels here. It immediately made me pick up Paranoia Agent. This is somehow a more cynical version of Paranoia Agent. Because I need some down and it was like, hey, this guy's helping people's lives and they're using him as an excuse to better their lives. This is just a corporation made this up and they're gonna use it to make money. Well, shit, that guy sucks.
Yeah, that they take advantage of this moment of rebellion in order to sell a product.
Yeah, somehow more cynical than Paranoia Agent. I didn't know that was possible, but Ghost in the Shell pulled it off.
And on top of that, people can do things online going back to before, because you have the episode before where Major's driving and they're like, "You've been online this whole time?" It's like, "Yeah, I could do that." Not like it's hard.
You've been talking this whole time? Man, that's my life story.
Just texting on her phone the entire time. Well, just playing phone games.
Playing solitaire. Just gambling. Essentially, just a big chat room. Playing Vegas poker.
So Joey, how realistic does this show feel, considering it takes place in 2030? In my opinion, it feels more realistic if they kick that date out, but I'm surprised how lived in the world is in general. And this was the case with the original movie as well.
It's hard because I mean, naturally, the first one when you compare dystopia, sci-fi, the first one I'm going to say is Blade Runner. because Blade Runner's probably aged the best out of all the sci-fi dystopia. This one doesn't feel. It doesn't feel far out there by any stretch. No, like there's no. It's not hard to suspend your disbelief, essentially.
Yeah, I could see this possibly happening. The only issue now is it's kind of reaches divergent fork in the road of technology, where a lot of the stuff used on the show is just crazy bulky and outdated, despite being futuristic. Like that neck thing he has going. Like I really thought we could probably just make those into AirPods, and like we could just read each other's minds that way. Easier than having this big worry. Most of our tech now, it doesn't make noise anymore. It's essentially just soundless and not noticeable. Like everything on the show looks very 90s despite being futuristic. That's the only real difference I'd say is there. We're very minimal.
It's getting there, though. Like, I mean, we have technology. Obviously, you can wear glasses that operate as your phone. I mean, it's not perfected obviously yet, but I mean, it's obviously getting there. And then it reminds me of the Black Mirror episode where everyone, if you have the eye implant, where you can record your memories in real time and just rewatch them over and over again.
So much of Black Mirror came up in this. Like, I feel like there's no way a lot of these guys don't watch Ghost in the Shell first before they come up with these shows. Like, even the idea of the major and putting your mind in another body, I kept thinking of San Junipero the entire time in a lot of episodes where people would die and they would just upload their brain into something else. You know, like a show Upload on Amazon, where you supposedly die, but then your consciousness is uploaded. But to me, as a layman, I just see it as you're dead. They made a copy of your brain and put it in something else, and that's what Ghost in the Shell is essentially to me. Like, yeah, the real version of this person is dead, and now you just have like their data being put in different bots. Like episode 2 just did that.
More like the Canadian ambassador's son episode, right, where he's trying to run off with one android,
the Jerry.
That was
like
the Jerry.
Yeah.
That was one episode, but most of it was episode 2 where that one guy died, and his parents were grieving him, but his body's now in his brain is now in the body of this robot, this big tank, and it's like, yeah, kind of Black Mirror kind of touches on this, but is this really this person, or is it just a copy of their brain wreaking havoc?
Yeah.
Like, is this even the major?
Really?
Is this really the major? Or is it like just a copy of the original major?
I mean, to the surprise of no one, I would assume that the people that wrote Black Mirror probably have seen this show.
Absolutely.
I mean, like something as pessimistic as Black Mirror watches something as pessimistic as this show. Yeah, and takes.
Yeah. The way I see it, like, this show is kind of like a training wheel version. Like, Black Mirror is taking these ideas and going, how much further can we push this? And they just go and do that thing.
And make it more Americanized for an American audience,
Yeah. I'm very interested. So something I might do is I might watch like the later, because Standalone Complex kept going. Like they kept bringing it back, and it was kind of law of diminishing returns. Second Gig, the second season of this, is still pretty good. It's not as good as season 1, in my opinion. Other than I think it has a better theme song. It has a better opening.
Boo you. Well, I love this theme song. This is on my playlist for years in college, just skateboarding down the street.
Not as good as Rise. Rise is very good. And I think that but overall the story is not as good. But in every single case, when I've seen like the like Standalone Complex of Rise and Standalone Complex 2045, both those I've heard kind of negative reviews on. So I don't know if like they just don't have that like early 2000s like post 9/11 energy anymore, or
it's hard to take an idea and keep trying to like elaborate on it without almost hurting the original idea of the show. Like, I mean, that's why most sequels in general just become kind of parodies of themselves, right? So like Terminator, for example, like Terminator 1 is a great standalone movie. Terminator 2 is really a continuation where they take some of the ideas and go further. But then Terminator 3 is just largely just a parody. It's really just...
We're just retreading ground there.
Almost just a comedy of itself.
Well, by that, I'll pose this question to both of you and Marlon first. So, we watched, when the show was originally a regular podcast, we watched original Ghost in the Shell. And it feels very different from this show. So, Marlon, does that, what was it, 93 or 96?
Like probably 96. But
Yeah, what was that 96 anime like? Does it feel like it's just like, oh, this is just a proof of concept, even though there was this manga going back for
I wouldn't even,
something like this? Does this work better as a procedural like this?
I don't want to say it works better as procedural, but I feel like the show is the realization of what the movie intended. The movie is more of a short glimpse into the world of these people, so you get to like kind of hyper focus and make it really good for an hour and a half. While this is just like, all right, well now let's see what they do on a daily basis, which kind of happens with every show you get from a movie. Like the budget is lower and the plot's not going to be as good, and it's happening here too. Like it's the animation is way too clean. It doesn't look nearly as grungy as the movie. It doesn't look nearly as detailed. And even the plot, you brought up the Terminator example, it's almost a retread of the same plot. It's and it's very similar-ish plot to the point where how many times can you bring this show back and really bring something new to it? It kind of feels like watching The Flash after a while. Every villain's a speedster. Like, well, what do you do? It's the same villain over and over again. So after a while, like, okay, you proved your point. Now what else do you have to say? And this show is just it's spread too thin. It's spread too thin. So it looks cleaner. It's not as good. The animation's not as good as a movie that's just here. It's the same story in an hour and a half. We're done. We don't need 26 episodes to tell the same story.
Marwin, there have not been a lot of times that I have understood what you mean by it looks too clean too often, but with this show I do agree, because I just sent you over like how Kusanagi looks in the 95 movie, and it's so
Right.
much better.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what happens when you have an entire team working on a character instead of like we just need to get this out. We have 26 episodes. Just gotta get it out as quick as possible. This is we have an hour and a half to just take our time and just make sure every shot is gorgeous. And this is not like 4 hours of a thing we're trying to pump out here.
Except those lovingly rendered shots of Kusanagi's ass that they have in like the first 3 episodes roughly, and then the show decides to get much less horny.
Right. It kind of reminds me why I would get excited why anything would get a movie. Getting a movie version of something meant bigger budget, meant bigger production value. Meant even Cowboy Bebop, you could say the show is better than the movie, yes, but the movie at least looked prettier than the show. So that is a very focused budget in that an hour and a half. Compared to here, we were already doing it backwards. Like, well, now you're giving me the watered down version. Like, yeah, it's 26 episodes, but it's the same drink. You just it's more water.
Yeah, Joey, what do you think between 95 movie, what you remember of it in the show?
Honestly, like animation wise, I can't really distinguish. I mean, like maybe animation to me it looks very Cowboy Bebop-ish. Um, but aside
Yeah,
from that,
that's
like as far as I mean, the reason why I would probably remember this better, it's a lot more. It's one recency bias. I remember because when did we watch Ghost in the Shell? It was almost like
It was one of
over
the
well
it
over
was like
4
one of the first 5
yeah.
episodes that we did.
Oh, yeah. So 3 years
I was
ago.
wondering if we covered
Um,
that. I remember, no, right? It's the movie. Yeah.
Yeah. But the, I mean, it's hard. You can cover way more information in a TV show and pass things along. I mean, maybe Marlon's right. This could be better in a like a mini series because you can focus on like one story as opposed to again. I mean, we reference it a lot, but like Supernatural, where you have 24 episodes to fill, and realistically, you have to watch 5. The rest of them are like, hey, we were in town and we came to a haunted house. Like, let's go
Yeah,
solve
just
this.
Scooby doing it.
Yep, exactly. And like, so you do definitely have a couple of those episodes in this. The good thing about this show, at least through 9 episodes, while I will give it grief for some of the dialogue in it, specifically episode 9, most of the episodes center along because it's built into this dystopian future, center on some sort of social commentary. And so at least like I can see like each episode is trying to make a point rather than just just throwing something at me and be like, "Hey, we
Yeah,
got this for you, but be here next week."
I appreciate that about it. Like during the last 5 minutes, it's always like a roundup. Like, all right, what did we learn? What was this episode?
Yeah, Joe.
What happened here?
This episode has taught us to please tip your robot geishas.
Right. Maybe souls exist after all. The end. Credits.
Although the robot geishas are just hacked into. The Jerry is the one that like may or may not have a soul by the end.
Like those lines weren't in the movie.
Robots are people. See, treat Alexa better.
My favorite
Thank you.
My favorite kind of silly part of that Jerry episode is when Togusa has his like it's such a trope that like we're coming down on the episode and his wife just happens to be watching the movie that this Jerry has taken the lines from, and he just stops it and keeps rewinding it while she's just sitting there. It's like, are you okay? Like
Well, not even the you okay. She instantly was like, "Hey, bitch." Like, I just told you how much I love this movie, and she's watching it, and he's like,
Not even explaining. Like, I have 10 minutes left. They're like, all right, fine, Jack, my movie here.
Yeah, it spends a long time with him just watching that scene over and over and over again with his wife saying nothing.
She'd seen it many times before. She watched it over and over again, she said. So maybe this one time.
Okay, so that's fine. If it was like the first time watching it, it's like a fucking this entire experience for you.
She's just happy that Togusa's finally paying attention to what she watches.
Yeah, like she's home. Like it's not just like gotta work late again. Sorry, bye.
Yeah. That guy needs some cybernetics. Just saying.
So, quick rundown of episodes here. So, episode 1, robot geishas and stopping the one, like, assistant prime minister at the airport.
Which, pause for a second. Yeah. From what I remember of the Scarlett Johansson movie, was that also how her movie opened up the robot geishas? Is that more of a standalone complex movie than it is a...
The movie also starts with them, the movie starts with her going invisible and assassinating the one prime minister guy. But I think that robot geishas are in the Scarlett Johansson movie at the start.
Yeah, I remember watching it and thinking, where is this in the movie? And I'm watching the show and like, oh, he just took it from
each and every one just starts with Kusanagi like on top of a building and jumping off it. They really like her doing that.
It's the same thing. You can only tell the same story so many times. That's all I'm saying.
The real problem with Scarlett Johansson with playing Kusanagi is not necessarily the fact that she's playing a Japanese character. It's that she wore pants. Like, Kusanagi doesn't wear pants mostly. Like, she.
It's amazing how much
in the end credit scene.
She is so good at her job. She's allowed to flaunt the dress code.
Hey, I will say, after watching Demon Slayer, this show is way less horny. And
no,
anything remotely that Demon Slayer will remotely put out there.
Ghost in the Shell so Demon Slayer is horny. Ghost in the Shell is sexy. It's confident. It understands, like, hey, yeah, here's a shot of Kusanagi's ass.
We're a male audience. Like,
here's us making the illusion that she just had a lesbian threesome for no reason.
Even though, calling back to the whole major thing, after I revealed in episode 8, I'm not sure it's not a dude. I'm not sure it's not a dude in a woman's body just doing what he wants. And that makes that scene a little skeevy, and at the same time, you go. Good for you. That's what I would do.
Canonically, the Major is a woman. Like, they actually give her backstory in the second season, but she even says in the, I think it's the 5th episode. It's where she talks about, it's like, oh yeah, when I was a little girl and I first got my cybernetic body, like I would crush my toys and things like that, and it harkens back to the opening and things like that. So, in general, it is not considered that Kusanagi like gender switches, but that people have had that reading of Ghost in the Shell before.
Right. I could see how the Wachowskis could see that and go like, "Hey, I can just choose whatever gender I want to be," and then just kind of run away with that thought. And now we have the Wachowskis now.
She's a government agent. Like, wouldn't it make sense to like at times swap into like body after body in theory? If it was
Right.
Borg
I would just have
or
a new
going
body every day. I'd be like a shapeshifter. Like, why stop ever? Like, I'm sure you have your favorites, but like today I'm an old man, today I'm an old black woman. Like, just to switch it up.
Sometimes I got my favorites. Like, oh,
Yeah.
got my favorite. I'm just gonna roam around as my cat today.
Yeah.
Do absolutely nothing. Sleep on the couch.
Well, we never watched the second movie, so the second movie was before this came out, and
Second?
yeah, because
Apparently, yeah.
it follows Bato and Togasa after the Major merges with the Puppet Master.
Not a second Scarlett Johansson movie.
No, this is the second original anime movie.
So that's happening straight to video.
But yeah, in that Kusanagi keeps swapping bodies. She's like in the body of a little girl, and then she's in this thing because she and the Puppet Master have basically merged consciousnesses, so she just lives in the net at that point.
Like, right, like at that point, you could just be like a cat undercover, and then suddenly a voice comes out, and you're under arrest, like during a drug deal or something. It would be freaking crazy. Why not just do that all the time? Today I'm a dog. Crime-fighting dog.
So I'm bringing up my list of
I'm just saying the show episodes is very limited. Like, yeah, you can die and just like put yourself in like some paradise, or you can just body hop for a bit.
Episode 1 is murderous geishas, or the like robot geishas that were hacked.
Yep. Second.
Episode 2 is the dude that was the tank.
Yep, is the tank episode, which I really like the tank episode. I think it's good for showing the technology and introducing the Tachikomas.
The idea of a ghost, really, in general.
The motives were kind of weird. Like, I hated you for putting my weak body, or making me stay in my weak body. Like,
yeah, but he didn't want to kill his parents in the end, though. He just wanted to show off to them, like, look at how strong I am now, Mom. And it was like,
did he want to show, like, I don't.
Your religion means nothing, Mom.
That's that was his entire point.
Am I the only one that got the impression like he lifts up and is like he's gonna shoot him? Like, isn't that what he wants to do? And it is like, hey, that's mighty convenient of your parents to show up in this city that's supposed to be evacuated.
Yeah, it was pretty. Thanks, plot god.
It's made to be somewhat nebulous, but I mean, Kusanagi is basically infallible, and she's the one who says like, "Oh, I didn't really feel like a murderous intent when I was in there briefly."
Oh, that's true. That's right. Because when she pulls like the wire out, she like mind melts, kind of.
Yeah, because she short circuits him and just blows up his brain.
Which is kind of messed up, but he did take the form of a tank. If he took a more friendly form, this story would have been completely different. But he chose a tank, and now he took him out.
That did make this show kind of anticlimactic, because I don't think she doesn't blow up his brain, right? But like then there's the dialogue later, like, "Yep, and then we destroyed this man's brain." It's like, oh, sad. Like,
Poor brother.
Like, we put him in the tank, and then they just sat the brain out like RoboCop 2 style, and just like, boom. That made me. I was sad.
Put in the garbage disposal, let's just turn it on.
So episode 3, Android and I'm pretty sure this episode just exists to have that one comedic back and forth when Kusanagi is asking what they do with these like sex bots that aren't really sex bots because they suck at everything. They're just there to stand around.
I mean, this one also exists to have the like, do robots have are robots capable of love? Very pessimistic of you, doing it.
Well, and Bato's like, oh, she's one to talk. It's like, yes, Bato, we understand you want to fuck her, okay?
It's like just a body, like just put her brain somewhere else for a minute.
one thing I will say about this episode, you do get to know him way more, though, compared to the other 2 episodes. Like, you figure out a little bit more of his motivations, given his commentary on, like, what they're investigating.
Mm-hmm.
So at least, like, you find out more about Bato in this episode.
Yep. Interceptor is a Togusa episode. Togusa doing Togusa things.
Yeah.
I agree with you. That is the best one of the whole series.
Of the 9, of the run.
It just kind of slowed down towards the middle, doesn't it? And it picks up again. But the middle is almost a blur by comparison to the starting beginning and end.
Yeah, and episode 5 is when the Laughing Man actually shows up. Hey, I've been waiting around this entire time, and now you've just pissed me off, so I'm going to manipulate a situation. The thing I don't quite understand is, like, the other hacker, like the one hacker guy who's shot in the head. That seems like just a weird red herring, considering the overall plot, but I don't know. It's...
Again, paranoia agent again if they're red herrings. And in a parallel, they're there.
Oh, I feel that with that the person paying attention to it was Chris Nolan. It felt kind of like the assassination scene in Batman.
The Dark Knight.
Yeah, The Dark Knight. I was gonna say Batman Returns. Like, no, it's
the Joker one.
What the hell was Meme?
Right?
Oh, that's the one that where they're just going over the attack. So yeah, we have 3 episodes straight of Laughing Man stuff, and then we have the side episodes.
I think the Laughing Man episodes might be my least favorite ones when you phrase them. I don't remember them not nearly as much as I do the other ones.
I think
The Interceptors is interesting because it progresses the story along. Those ones go really fast. Or the Interceptor episode went fast. The press conference one was just kind of like there, and then 6 does feel long.
It was just an excuse for action scenes. It was 20 minutes of pure action that conference episode. Like the one dude with the gorilla arms that have the friggin' pistons coming out of it, it always like hammers her down.
I will say I do like that assassination scene because everyone keeps coming out of the woodwork saying they've been hacked and just like shoots this man.
Now I want to play more Cyberpunk. The game is just that show.
Do any of you have an opinion on Marcello Jarti and his ability to constantly be assassinated by government agents but still be around?
I think that's cool. That's a great use of the body.
I love that like reveal is that like the nations at this point understand that it's kind of a fool's premise that they're going after him all this time, but no one just wants to admit it's like, oh yeah, he got us. Like, so they just keep assassinating these doubles.
That's good use of it.
That's the one, right, where they said like, would you rather follow a phony hero or learn the real truth or something?
Yeah.
When they basically send them on like an airline back to Russia.
Yep. Yeah, they're like the best thing to do is just keep perpetuating this, I guess.
It also presents this idea to me that at some point of technology you kind of become immortal, not in the like subconscious sense, but in the, like your ideas, your personality, everything that you are. Even the worst people in history, you can kind of have like Cyber Hitler for the next 500 years, just wreaking havoc if they want.
Well, and Jardy is killed by the technology. They say it's like, oh yeah, he made it like 2 or 3 swap arounds and then he just died. like dude was a specimen for even being able to do that.
But it's something I don't get about the show, because if the ghost in the shell is really just information, then it's permanent. You can't really destroy that. It's just uplifting, and at the same time, it's just like...
And then we have Missing Hearts. So, Marwin, are there any other thoughts you had on Missing Hearts? I know that this is just a thing in translation, but I do like the fact that I imagine that the one CEO of of the organ buying corporation does not have a Texas accent in in the actual thing. He probably has
Sure
like
it's American.
probably an Osaka accent or something like that, to be honest, because that's like the Japanese equivalent of a Southern accent. But I like how in the translation it's like, oh, we'll just make him sound like this crazy Texan, which also works.
Because there was another point they kept referencing Holland, and I kept thinking, like, all right, maybe they just meant like this guy's going on an American vacation, because Holland is like a random place to keep referencing in Japanese culture. Like, I'm going on a vacation in Holland. Like, that's the Caribbean or anywhere, Holland. All right, cool.
Forgot about that. That's right. They reference it like it was like, oh, like you're going to retire and go to Holland, huh? Where this
I forgot that
company is
country
going.
existed, man. Like, you just keep referencing it.
But Joey, are you going to sell your organs and put your body into a tiny box with legs?
Ed, I will. What did I recently say? I'll sell a kidney for. Oh yeah, if football reference, guys. So I don't know if you'll want it, but like, if North Dakota State goes to the Pac-12, that's the latest rumor. I will donate my kidney. I did talk about that. So yes, my organs are for sale for certain things.
I'll be sure to get you a nice little Japanese fan so you can
Pay for college for at least 2 of my kids. Done. You can have half along. It's fair.
Also, I do need the plot explained to me on Missing Hearts a little bit. So Kusanagi's like girlfriend or like fuck buddy or whatever. Like lets her know like, hey, this kid got a heart transplant and they said the donor was from this other kid who was here. But I'm not sure of how they got this. So did they like take the kid's DNA and put it into the pigs? Or did they just kind of drop that plot line and just said like, oh well, we're just going after these like organ stealers?
Just assume something tragic happened where the kid was died or was killed, blah 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 blah. Just assume we have it. Don't ask any more questions.
Footage missing.
We don't need to dive into deeper kid violence. Yeah, like it's just.
Oh no, this kid died anyway.
But I'm just saying
Exactly. Unfortunate circumstance. But by the way, we have this organ sitting around.
Yeah, I'm just saying gross misuse of public funds in taking out these 3 doofuses.
Literally gross misuse. Disgusting.
They fire a bunch of expensive bullets to take out their tires, then they fire a tank shell at them. Like, there's like 4 separate highly paid cops on this.
Is it
like
a
the police
critique on the police or not? I can't tell sometimes. Like, we should defund these guys, right? It's kind of crazy technology.
What were you saying, Joey?
Are they essentially? I mean, they are essentially federal, right? They're like kind of like
Yeah.
FBI. I would assume more so.
They're like both FBI and internal affairs because Section 9 basically oversees information crime.
Secret Service because you do bodyguard work too.
Section 9 just does what they need to do to keep the plot moving.
Why is it always Section 9? Final Fantasy 7 was Section 9.
No, that was Sector 7.
Oh, that was 7. Okay.
That is 7 or 9.
Oh, what's Hunger Games? Hunger Games is
District 9.
This is well, District 9.
Yeah, District 9.
Yeah, now
It could be. I don't know. I haven't seen Hunger Games in a while.
People just like the number 9. Like this. There's that movie 9, just about the little doll guy.
Oh wait, no. I'm thinking of what's this bad Jim Carrey movie? That's the number.
23.
Yeah, the number 23.
23.
There was the Xbox 360 launch game 99 Nights, which was like a Dynasty Warriors type game. I just wanted to make a deep cut about 99 Nights.
Fantasy 9's the best one. It's agreed upon. Like, yeah, 9.
while we're on 9, the worst episode of this group of episodes.
I
we watched.
like the TED Talk. Like,
Yeah, I did too. I don't think it's the worst episode. I think it was very revealing. I think we got a lot of good information for episode 9.
The whole
episode 9 is
conversation
there
about
to remind you that the main plot is happening.
I'm
It
fine
did
with
freak
that.
me
The
out when
whole
it broke the fourth wall and looked right at me. Though, like, yeah, I know it's you, but you don't have to show it to me.
Let's talk about how this cyber terrorist is cool. We need to talk more about how he's cool. He is the definition of cool.
Joey, this is how I can tell you did.
5 minutes.
Joey, this is how I can tell that you were not around web forums in in the 2000s.
This is kind of what we're doing.
It's like this is just how people were talking. Let's talk about the philosophical nature of cool that was in Chuck or Heroes or whatever.
And these guys were supposed to be a bunch of copycats, so that's where I would go to find a real one, I guess.
Yeah, and it's where they explain what the standalone complex is. They even say it by name. They have the title drop.
Took 9 episodes. Yeah, it's the thing.
So Joey,
Yeah,
this
Apparently, you both were probably in high school too, and I was in college.
This is true. So this is a very adult for me at the time. I felt like a grown up watching this.
yeah, this was in 2006. It probably went on Adult Swim in 2007, so I was a sophomore in college.
Yeah, it was college.
So, this is, I think, your third project from Project IG, Joey, that you've seen. Because you saw original Ghost in the Shell, which was when they were kind of first started. You saw the Last Jedi, or not the Last Jedi, the Ninth Jedi is what it's called in the in Star Wars Visions, and now you have
cool medieval one, right? That's the cool like. Isn't that the weird medieval?
no
where
that's the
it-
it's the one where the big hit is that, like, you have all these Jedi standing in a room who are like, hey, yeah, we're ready to take on the Empire, and then after they bring out the Kyber crystal, it turns out that all but one is a Sith.
Yeah,
Oh,
I like the just idea that the Kyber crystal responds to your mood and what side of the Force you're on, and it can actually change colors, which I thought was really cool. It can turn red as you're using it.
But do you like this, like, animation style? Because they have a very distinct style in general. They kind of make things look realistic. They do not do the Demon Slayer thing or the shonen anime thing of like big like expressions that make them all cartoony. So is this effectively where you live? You live in Ghost in the Shell town here.
It's okay. I mean, it blends in with some of the other shows that we've still seen. Like,
Yeah.
there's still a depict like where I mean, it gets more gritty, like some other shows too. Like even if it's a different animation studio, like I mean, Marlon said Samurai Champloo. I mean, the violence is still pretty gritty in this. Um, the feel of it, for certain how they drew up certain things when like people come into contact or they grab somebody. Like again, you can feel the grit, I guess, if that kind of makes sense. But
Yeah.
I definitely like this animation style way better than like again a Demon Slayer or a Jujutsu Kaisen. I could definitely, or even as much as I like the story, I like this animation style better than Bell. Like that whimsical kind of style that they have for those ones too.
Yeah, when I say anime, when I say I like anime, this is what I'm talking about. This Rurouni Kenshin, your Cowboy Bebops, your Paranoid Agents. There's something about this particular period of time after Cowboy Bebop was a hit after 9/11. They all came out with these super serious, super hyper realistic animes. Even before Street Fighter 2, the movie, anime like that. The 90s produced like a lot of hyper realistic anime and then somewhere along the way, shonen became really popular, and we got more of your Dragon Ball Z, Inuyasha, My Hero Academia types. It's like,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
yeah, of course,
overall, I think design started getting simpler. Like they tried to stop aping like, oh, we want to make these characters look realistic, and they started making them look a little bit simpler so they would look better in action, in movement.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
the action standalone complex is good, but for the most part, it's people standing around and shooting guns.
right,
Well, I mean, I even I will say like I think that's kind of like an understatement, just because I mean it's a cop show, and it still like centers around like, hey, we need to solve this case. There's still a degree of like Law and Order SVU here that I could
yeah.
still.
And at the same
And
time,
sadly,
the
I'd still
action,
say this show is still less depressing than SVU.
right? It has a thing show that SPU doesn't have, which is incredible action scenes, which is something I felt was lacking in a lot of so-called adult shows when I was growing up. Like fine, I'll watch your Law and Order, I'll watch your crime procedurals, and I tried watching them, and then I found them incredibly dull compared to something like this that where you can essentially have your cake and eat it too by having a procedural and then having these huge explosions, big long drawn out fights, which you can't really compare to on network TV with anime where you can just kind of draw whatever you want and it looks incredible.
I mean, to a degree, it's easier to identify with for someone like us, though, too, right? Like not no three of us are cops. Like we're not going to. It's harder for us to even relate to a world that, like a regular world of police officers, just because we're not one. We just know what we
Right.
can see and what we feel for this world. But if you put us in a like a sci-fi dystopia fantasy world, then
Yeah.
I mean it's part of the fantasy. So it's almost easier to relate in that edge than it would be in a real life drama.
Because you're already suspending your sense of disbelief, like right off the
Hmm.
cuff. Like right, we're in a futuristic setting. All right, well, boom, just throw that out the window. Law and Order SVU, it's realistic, so you already have like certain rules and standards like set by yourself. Where if an alien shows up, it's gonna look weird. It's gonna stick out on that show. An alien shows up on this, like I guess we're branching out into alien space sci-fi now. It wouldn't take much of a
Yeah.
hop, skip, and a jump.
Yeah, like we talk about Togusa, right? So like Togusa is the everyman, where we don't necessarily watch this show to root for Togusa, like maybe like SVU, maybe you're invested in um Maris, I forget the actress's main name, but
Mariska
like
Hargitay?
you're
Yeah.
yeah, Hargitay. Like you're watching it, but she's become the hero. Like you're rooting for her individually. Whereas like this show, you can watch Togusa and you see him as you. Like he
Mm.
becomes the everyman. So like you project what you are onto him and say, okay, if I'm like, how would I react if I was him in this scenario?
On that
There's also kind of
nature,
there.
uh, on that nature is Ghost in the Shell competence porn. That's the that was the ongoing thing. It was after Trump was elected. There's all this talk about shows that were competence porn. The main one that was talked about was Star Trek: The Next Generation, where it is you are seeing a whole bunch of people that are good at their jobs. Or The West Wing was another one where
Mm.
like everything is like super super utopian, and this is like this in general is a fantasy. Like, do they try to have their cake and eat it too by giving you the super super competent section 9 but still showing that everything around them is basically rotten?
Well, I mean, it's a degree of neutrality. Like
Mm.
what you do get with those shows is because both like those shows previous, they're able to navigate through and just show you like no, like this is where we're going, and they kind of keep like the straight moral compass, I guess is really the way to. And this show is no different. This show does the same thing because, like we said, like you have the bad corporation, but you have the bad corruption part of the government, so they just fly through the narrow. And I think like what people want, like give me the degree of neutrality, especially in this environment of major division that we're in now. That you have let me make the decision for myself, where we can just fly through the middle and go through, I guess, essentially.
Alrighty. So, Joey, we've watched two major science fiction series, the two big ones of anime, I would argue. One being
Demon
Gundam.
Slayer?
No, Gundam and Ghost in the Shell.
Okay.
If you were
Yeah.
if you were to say, "Hey, I want a lore book on one of these," which are you choosing? Which are you more interested in, like the technology and world structure in at this point? Even though
Gundam.
Ghost in the Shell is kind of working
Gundam
off the back
feels more
foot.
Gundam's more expansive. I mean, like Gundam is in a weird way like Star Wars. Like there's multiple like I guess there's not multiple planets, but there's multiple colonies, and each with their own motivations or their own reasons for going to this war. And so it's really this whole thing surrounding that. Like, and there was a history around it, so maybe that's based on shows we watched. So whereas one show of Gundam was different than the other show of Gundam we watched, whereas like you had the origin, but then you had the 08th MS team. So they're basically two completely separate stories where the characters are unrelated, but the main character really is the war. Ghost in the Shell, no matter what, like we're not watching it for the worldview. We're watching it for these characters.
Yeah.
If you're me, because again, my general interest is military history, and Gundam's gonna win every time.
Marwin, are you in the same boat?
Yeah, I was gonna say on that note is why I disagree with Joey. Like I agree with his reasons, but that's why I prefer something like Ghost in the Shell over Gundam. Gundam, my interest kind of stops with the Gundams themselves. Once you get that whole this nation and this nation and this nation retaliated and this, but in this person, I don't give a shit. I care about interpersonal relationships and how they relate to each other, how they're doing. I don't care what the major is doing. I don't care what the entire nation of Japan is doing. I Gundam, I care about these Gundams. They look cool. That's amazing. But I realize in these animes now, it's like, say you like a particular kind of tank or a particular kind of gun. That's not what this show is about. They're just weapons. They're just tools. And the show itself, it's still dull as shit because it's Gundam. And they have great robots, but their plots are just dull as hell compared to something like Ghost in the Shell, where like, yeah, I'll watch any episode any day of the week. Ghost in the Shell is just, there's always something interesting happening there.
Yeah.
It's like watching Perfect Blue every day.
I feel differently about Perfect Blue, but I do agree. I mean, this individual series is better than anything we've watched on the Gundam side because it does a better job with character development and telling the story and getting me invested in the characters rather than like in the end I just want to see robots fight. But like if you're asking me from a personal standpoint, yes. Like what story itself am I going to be more interested in? Where I think you could have a better chance of telling a better one, and yes, and that's where I'm the opposite side of Marlon.
Yep. No, and I personally do like that Cyberpunk, when it's good, tends to be like very, very individual focused. You aren't dealing with characters who are wanting to save the world. Even Cyberpunk 2077, as a video game, which I takes a lot from this. There is literally a boss fight that is just the giant tank from original movie and second episode of this.
That thing is uneasy, by the way. That was a lot of fun.
But I like that it's like V's not saving the world. V is dying, and V is just trying to make a name for him or herself, and you're just living with this character for this like month before their brain eats them. And there's something I think that's very powerful in that that I think that Cyberpunk helps with.
The story is just different when it's personal. It's just period. Any story at all, when I get to know the character and feel for them, it's not different from, oh my god, this guy's ready to destroy the world. Like, I don't care about the world. I care about an individual. I care about a person. I care about what Peter Parker's doing. I don't care what Manhattan is doing. That's too much. I just want to know about this one person, and that's it. That's enough.
Yep. So, Joey, what you have to look forward to, you have a Bato episode next. That's episode 10. And then we're going to episode 18, and then our final one for the month of November is going to be finalizing Ghost in the Shell standalone complex. If you really like Project IG, they are the studio that is going to be in charge of the Terminator anime that's going to Netflix
Right.
in
I should watch
October.
that.
Already, I've seen it. Or I haven't seen it, but I've seen the trailers for it.
Mhm.
And sadly, I am interested.
It might be good.
I want to believe in Terminator again, so I'm at this point. It's always just hope, because most of the last there hasn't been a good Terminator Sarah Connor Chronicles had like 2 episodes that were good. Dark Fate had a good idea but turned out to be crap. Genesis
Yeah.
should not exist on the planet ever. And Terminator 3 is okay for what it is, but I mean, realistically, in Salvation is bad. So
Yeah,
and
I'm
there
glad you
hasn't been
brought
any
up
good
the.
Terminator stuff in Terminator 2.
I'm glad you brought up the Sarah Connor Chronicles. That's a great comparison to this, where you can have like great ideas plot wise, but that budget is going to constrain you. Like it's a great show, but it's still a show. It's like this looks like shit though.
I can just imagine what
Yeah.
this show would do. Like, if you just go back in time, you give Project IG all of the technology that Demon Slayer uses, their budget, and their more constrained seasons, and just see if they go whole hog with some episodes.
I mean, it seems with this Terminator series, they're following different characters altogether, which, again, like, yes, do that. We don't need to follow John Connor again. We know the story. You don't need to expand on it and change the timelines. You really
Right.
don't. Just like, exactly, follow, like, one of these other survivors, because in the end, like, cool, I want to see. Sad thing about Terminator, I want to see the dystopian nuclear war zone. That's what I want to see. I want to see.
Yeah.
I want to see you fight the robots and the planes and the AI, like, and with the gun mounted on the truck. Like,
You brought that up. You know, it's a series that is doing that. Planet of the Apes. Planet of the Apes is doing exactly what the Terminator movies should be doing, showing us exactly how this war happened and what took place, how we got there, and they're just not doing it. But Planet of the Apes has a great trilogy that should be Terminator instead. They could just steal their idea.
Do they have a war? Is in the Planet of the, because the end of the first one is the, like, hey, there's the virus.
Yeah.
It wipes most of humanity, and I guess it's just survivors. Yeah, after that.
Then there's a
the
big
second
battle
one.
in the second one.
And then the third one is the virus finally doing its job, and the humans are getting dumber. And it's not the war anymore that's killing them; it's the virus, and that's when the apes finally just take over.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have the fourth movie where it's just talking apes everywhere, and humans like, oh my god, it's a human.
So it's just a remake of the Charlton Heston original movie.
Now we're here again, yeah. Full circle.
So, Joey, do you want to save scores for when you're completely done with the series, or do you want to give a third of the season, like, out of 7 score?
I would save it because, I mean, there could be an episode that dramatically, like, raises the bar. Like, again, like, 4 is really good. And then, interesting, like, that one, like, I had no, like, that one felt like I was watching it for 3 minutes and it was over.
Yeah.
But then there's other episodes like, yep, 6 lasts very long, 8 lasts very long, and 9 just turned me off. It didn't last long, but 9 just turned me off for that one guy.
9 feels like you're watching a clip show without watching a clip show. I will.
Yeah. You are just sitting at a table talking to people, though.
It didn't feel like forever. Like, yeah, like episode 6 feels like you're watching it forever.
Alrighty, Marlon, we still need to watch Suicide Squad Isekai at some point.
Oh yes.
Like, I need to. I'm watching the Boys Generation V, and that is just My Hero Academia, only with blood and sex, and it's great.
Pretty much, it's a well-written My Hero Academia.
If Midoriya killed his parents.
Yeah. Which, yeah, you bring up Generation V, you bring up The Boys, bring up Supernatural again. That's a show like his idea right out ages ago, and it just kept going. Like just do your thing and
Wow.
leave, and that's how you get the boys,
Yeah.
and you get something of quality. Just get your idea and just go, just get out of here.
Supernatural, you can just end at season 5 because that's when the original writers left because that was what their plan was, and then it's over.
Yeah,
There's some good stuff to come in between or afterwards, just like joke episodes where they make fun of themselves, but the rest
you
of
know
it
the
is
party's over. You're just kind of hanging out here now. Like the music stopped, the lights are on. Why are we still here?
And speaking of
Even,
why we're
like,
still
even
here,
Google apparently is telling me to watch The Boys because now I'm getting clips from The Boys on my YouTube feed.
It's only
Like,
4 seasons, man, and it's so good. It's only 4 seasons, and it's like 12 episodes. It's like 8 episodes per season. So it's way more compact than Supernatural, trying to get like 22 episodes out of you for 9 seasons straight.
I
yeah,
watched Jack Reacher, so if I can watch the 2 seasons of Jack Reacher pretty easily, I should be able to watch The Boys.
if you can make it past the first season of The Boys, it is all uphill from there.
Yeah,
Season 1 is the worst season.
something that you rarely get to say that. That never happens. And I like season 1.
But anyway, speaking of overstaying our welcome, we should get out of here. At some point, I'll put up a schedule, and Barwin will figure out when to do Suicide Squad Isekai. But we'll come back in probably early October to talk about up to episode 18 and see if the Laughing Man has come back, and then we'll all have the little circle on our faces and things like that. So
Yeah, I should do an entire stream like that. Just cover all our faces.
Just tell me ahead of time. Does the Laughing Man reveal seem like? Is it a cool like aha moment, or is it just like that's the guy? Huh? Or that's
What do
the
you
girl,
think?
I guess?
I really like how the main plot line ends, but
Okay.
it doesn't feel like I remember seeing it originally and it not feeling like what I was expecting. But I really like the ending for the Laughing Man saga. I like how they kind of tied it all together. The main problem with the second season is they kind of go too big. It's about like Japan is slowly like turning to fascism as there's this big refugee crisis, and the American Empire is like using political manipulation to take control of the Japanese government. It's too big. It's too much.
You can go too big. Keep your story small and personal. You gotta Mad Max it.
But yeah, we're out of here.
Oh, I get what you're saying.